The first reading is from the book of Jeremiah, chapter 23. Woe to the shepherds who destroy and scatter the sheep of my pasture, says the Lord. Therefore, thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, concerning the shepherds who shepherd my people. It is you who have scattered my flock and have driven them away, and you have not attended to them. So I will attend to you for your evil doings, says the Lord. Then I myself will gather the remnant of my flock out of all the lands where I have driven them, and I will bring them back to their fold, and they shall be fruitful and multiply. I will raise up shepherds over them who will shepherd them, and they shall not fear any longer or be dismayed, nor shall any be missing, says the Lord. Days are surely coming, says the Lord, when I will raise up for David a righteous branch, and he shall reign as king and deal wisely, and shall execute justice and righteousness in the land. And in his days Judah will be saved, and Israel will live in safety, and this is the name by which he will be called. The Lord is our righteousness. This is the word of the Lord. The second reading is from the book of Colossians, chapter 1. May you be made strong with all the strength that comes from his glorious power, and may you be prepared to endure everything with patience, while joyfully giving thanks to the Father, who has enabled you to share in the inheritance of the saints in the light. He has rescued us from the power of darkness and transferred us into the kingdom of his beloved Son, in whom we have redemption, the forgiveness of sins. He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation, for in him all things and on earth were created, things visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or powers. All things have been created through him and for him. He himself is before all things, and in him all things hold together. He is the head of the body, the church. He is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, so that he might come to have first place in everything. For in him all the fullness of God was pleased to dwell, and through him God was pleased to reconcile to himself all things, whether on earth or in heaven, by making peace through the blood of his cross. This is the word of the Lord. Praise God.
Comes from the 23rd chapter of Luke, beginning with the 33rd verse. When they came to the place that is called the Skull, they crucified Jesus there with the criminals, one on his right and one on his left. Then Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." And they cast lots to divide his clothing. And the people stood by watching, but the leaders scoffed at him, saying, "He saved others. Let him save himself if he is the Messiah of God, his chosen one." The soldiers also mocked him, coming up and offering him sour wine, and saying, "If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself." There was also an inscription over him, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals who were hanged there kept deriding him and saying, "Are you not the Messiah? Save yourself and us." But the other rebuked him, saying, Do you not fear God since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed have been condemned justly, for we are getting what we deserve for our deeds. But this man has done nothing wrong. Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." He replied, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." This is the word of the Lord. So, going around, what are some of the struggles we all have faced in the past week? Open to replies. Tough crowd. So one of the struggles I've faced in the past week was, so I'm a wrestler for my school. I wrestle in the 195-pound weight class, but since one of the wrestlers on my team was sick, I had to wrestle up. and wrestle the state champion in the weight class above me. So not only was I wrestling outside of my comfortable area, I was also wrestling a true monster of a person. So I decided not to sulk in my misfortune and take it head on. I worked hard from Monday through Wednesday, waking up at 4 a.m. every day so I could go run and work out, and then staying after school for 2 hours a day to work out with my team. I even lost about 6 pounds in the process, being that I was also sick at the time. But so I warmed up thoroughly before my match, putting myself in what I call a cutthroat mindset and warming up my body. I walked onto the mat, shook his hand, and in less than 15 seconds, I was slammed into the mat and pinned. And I also had blood rushing from my nose because on the way down to the mat, he kind of hit me in the nose. So for those who aren't familiar with wrestling, being pinned in 15 seconds is not good. But the adversity I put myself through had proven my dedication to my teammates, and accepting a loss to my record rather than forfeiting a match showed that I would keep my integrity even when common sense and basic self-preservation said not to. Which brings us to the gospel. Jesus had already been betrayed by his closest friends, Judas and Peter, and has been sentenced to death for blasphemy. And even while he hangs on the cross, he is still ridiculed by the soldiers and given sour wine and taunted for hours. On top of that, one of the two criminals next to him taunted him for not saving himself. Yet the other criminal made a simple and honest request to Jesus by saying, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." To which Jesus replied, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." So let me be the first to tell you that fighting hand-to-hand with a state champion is nothing near fighting with an entire culture like Jesus did. He had the government, a culture, some of his closest friends, and what seemed to be his own father turning against him and punishing him for no good reason. But in the same way, we all feel at some point in our lives that everything is against us, that no matter how hard we try, things simply cannot go in our favor. I certainly felt it in the past few weeks. By first getting sick, then I didn't get accepted for a music audition that I worked really hard for. Then I got even sicker. Then I left my doctor's note at the doctor's office. And then I had to train harder than I ever have in my life, only to get pinned in only 15 seconds. And then I had brain-frying physics homework, which I'm still mad at my teacher for. And finally, I wrote this sermon at 10:30 p.m. on a school night. So it's very safe to say that I felt cornered by the circumstances handed to me in the past few weeks. But just like these verses say, our trials and tribulations that we work hard through and turn the other cheek towards are seen and appreciated in the eyes of God, and he understands our humanity and what I call our inescapable imperfectness. Of course, we will get touched by illness and insomnia, and sometimes in life we will be metaphorically slammed into a mat. But the mere fact that we look into the face of adversity with Jesus' wisdom and guidance steering us lets God know our value as a person, and he will give us favor in the battle between good and evil, saying, "Then I myself will gather the remnant of my flock out of all the lands where I have driven them, and I will bring them back to their fold, and they shall be fruitful and multiply. I will raise shepherds over them who will shepherd them, and they shall not fear any longer or be dismayed, nor shall any be missing." When we go through the pains of life and stay true to God's plan, we are just like the prisoner at Jesus' side, and we will be with him in paradise. A common mantra said in the athletic community at my school is, "Don't be a victim of life," meaning not to allow your misgivings, whether it be an injury or a lack of sleep or a crazy teacher, be an excuse as to why you aren't putting forth your best effort. I believe it can play into our daily battles with adversity in the size of God. Don't believe for a second that God doesn't see the value of our struggles, because he sees them and he hurts for us. And he sends his only son to die so that in spite of our selfish endeavors and our choice to let life and temptation control us,
that he will still grant us favor and peace, whether it be in this life or in paradise. Amen.